This is the Chamber Chat Podcast, the show dedicated to chamber professionals to spark ideas and to get actionable tips and strategies to better serve your members and community. Hello, Chamber Champions. Welcome to Chamber Chat Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Burton, and it's my goal here on the podcast to introduce you to people and ideas to better help you serve your chamber members and your community. Our title sponsor for this episode is Bringing Local Back. Remember when your community could turn to a local TV station or newspaper for the latest updates and affordable ads? Those days may be fading, but the need for local connection remains. That's why we created Bringing Local Back, a game-changing platform that restores local visibility and advertising power to your community. It's more than just tech. It's about driving engagement and creating new revenue for your chamber. Ready to see the future? Visit bringinglocalback.com to schedule your demo today. This is the future of local commerce. Our guest for this episode is Matt Lofy. Matt is the president and CEO of the Worthington Area Chamber. And since joining the Worthington Area Chamber in August 2021, he's been driven by his vision, which is he wants their chamber to serve as an igniter of positive change rather than merely serving as a resource to cope with change. Matt's strategic focus on business advocacy, bridge building with key stakeholders, and relentless pursuit of relevance has significantly strengthened the Chamber's influence and engagement with local businesses, amplifying the voice of business. His initiatives led to a 20% increase in local business engagement within his first year. This impact resulted in him being named as one of the Chamber industry's top emerging leaders as a 40 under 40 honoree by ACCE, and a 2023 Chamber Professional of the Year by the Chamber of Commerce Executives of Ohio. Prior to this position at the Chamber, Matt served in numerous roles within the Westerville Area Chamber, including Executive Director of Leadership at Westerville. He also taught morning spin classes for over a decade and is a veteran of the United States Coast Guard. In addition to his professional success, Matt finds joy in his roles as a husband and father to his beautiful wife, Heather, and their two young children, Tuckerman and Caroline. He is also the founder and co-host of the award-winning Dadass podcast. Matt, I'm excited to have you with us today here on Chamber Chat Podcast. I'd love to give you a moment to say hello to all the Chamber champions and share something interesting about yourself so we can all get to know you a little better.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Brandon, for this opportunity. And thank you to all the Chamber champions who are listening. A fun fact I like to share, you had mentioned about my podcast, and from one podcast host to another, one of my fun facts is we actually used our podcast platform, not so much to grow beyond just a local podcast, but to actually advocate. So we've worked with our Columbus City Council the last 2 years to dadvocate to get, we've now had over 300 changing tables put into men's and gender neutral restrooms throughout businesses and nonprofits in the city of Columbus. And so it was a way to marry my passion project and my chamber career to really bridge build with a public-private partnership. So we've been able to do that and advocate for easier access to changing tables.
That's awesome. I'm convinced that chamber work is like a drug. You just get addicted to it. And then whatever you do in life, it's going to tie back to the chamber somehow. So that's proof and point right there. So.
Absolutely. Can't get away from it. I drank the Kool-Aid.
That's right. That's right. I need to find out where to go to get awards for podcast. I've yet to win an award. So congratulations to Dadass Podcast. That's pretty cool.
There was a local one here. So really, I think we joke, but we're pretty serious. It was our mom, my colleague, and my mom, and all their older friends who are retired just voting daily. That's all it was. So don't.
Awesome.
But now we can say we're winning.
We can edit that out. Nobody has to know. No,
it's our secret.
That's right. But tell us a little bit about the Worthington Area Chamber. Give us an idea of your chamber size, staff, budget, scope of work you guys are involved with, just to kind of set the stage for our discussion today.
Yeah, for anyone who's not familiar with Columbus, imagine a big circle around a major city. We are at the north central part of Central Ohio and Columbus, which we actually get confused with Worthington, Minnesota. When I first started, I was told that half of the phone calls in Worthington, Minnesota, are phone calls for Worthington, Ohio. But we're a small chamber of commerce of roughly 550 member businesses, a modest budget in the mid 300,000 range, and a staff of two currently, putting out roughly 65 to 70 events and organized meetings a year. So we're doing quite a bit for two people. In terms of the scope, we went from a chamber that really was kind of in a decline prior to COVID to not being relevant or impacting our community or supporting our businesses during COVID. So really, we've done a lot as a two-person team to bring back all networks. So from our Soho groups, small office, home office, which we call Small Business Roundtable, to our Women's Business Network, YP, those all have been started from scratch within the last 2 to 3 years. So just to really show where we've been and how far we've come just in 3 years. And then we're in a city that's 4.5 to 5 miles, square miles in size. Our school district's 4 times that, because we pull from the city of Columbus. And so that's really a taste of our community and our chamber in 90 seconds or less.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. So you came into the chamber world at a very interesting time. So I think that's going to play in well with your story with our topic today about creating a chamber of impact, because I'm sure you were able to see all of the opportunity around you at that timing of when you came into the chamber here. But we'll dive in much deeper in that as soon as I get back from this quick break. Are you looking for a year-round, affordable, and timely shop local campaign for your chamber or CVB? Look no further. Build a custom Eat, Shop, Play mobile app with App My Community by visiting appmycommunity.com/chamberchat. App My Community mobile apps are not just simple membership directory listings. They provide many more capabilities to engage with your community. Provide your residents with a robust events calendar. Partner with a local fair, festival, or farmers market to provide a schedule, map, and other resources to promote the event. Run a Small Business Saturday campaign any time of the year using built-in scavenger hunts. Allow your membership to communicate directly to their customers via push notifications. Your App My Community mobile app will be a unique member benefit, allow you to generate non-dues revenue with sponsorship opportunities, and best of all, provide a valuable resource to your community. Please visit appmycommunity.com/chamberchat now to receive 10% off your first year of an App My Community mobile app. Are you looking for a way to grow and manage your Chamber of Commerce more effectively? Look no further than Chamber Nation. Their innovative software provides everything you need to streamline operations, engage members, and increase revenue. With features like event management, membership directories, advanced membership tools, mobile apps, community kiosks, and financial reporting, Chamber Nation makes it easy to run your chamber like a well-oiled machine. Don't miss out on this opportunity to take your chamber to the next level. Visit richardscalendar.com to learn more about Chamber Nation today. All right, Matt, we're back. As I mentioned before the break, we're talking today about creating a chamber of impact. So how did coming into the Worthington area chamber in August of 21, how did that timing affect your thinking going into creating a chamber of impact and the opportunity that you saw at that time frame?
That's a great question. We had our challenges just as a lot of chambers did because of the impact of COVID. What I had kind of up against me coming into this role is, one, I left another chamber in a neighboring community, but not in the president role, that did everything I think right during COVID, coming to a chamber that hadn't done much to impact the community or the businesses. So I had a different lens to look through, but at the same time, because of where we're situated in Central Ohio, we pull from Columbus Public Health. So after my first week, we actually got put into a 6-month mask mandate. So there were just some extra layers that were added. But how I looked at it was, because we hadn't impacted our community and our businesses, I had a full deck of cards to play with because no one was going to question and say, well, we didn't do things this way. No one really remembered that. And so I jokingly say I came in like I pulled a Miley Cyrus and came in like a
Like
wrecking
wrecking
ball.
ball,
Yeah,
yeah.
I have to, right? All I had to say is I came in like Miley Cyrus and you knew it.
That's
Uh,
right.
but at that point, it was okay, we have a mask mandate, but we have to be seen. And so I started to really look at ways to how do we amplify the voice of business and our chamber without having events here in the first few days and not having the relationships. And so we used it as a way to completely flip our ineffective emails and getting squared away with three separate monthly email newsletters that went out and specifically targeting different areas of interest for our businesses instead of just showing and sending out future events and things like that. We had to get better and more strategic with the way we reached out. One of the first things I did on social media was I wanted to be seen and build a relationship when I couldn't be in person and build relationships. And so without knowing at the time of your podcast, I kind of stole your name and created a chamber chat with Matt video that I
Okay.
put out bi-weekly where it was just me. I had my own theme music and introduction, and it was me sitting in my office or even in my basement office, giving key updates of what the business is doing. We might not be able to meet together right now, but this is what your investment in our chamber, in us, is helping us do to impact you, your business, and our community. So it really allowed us to take non-existent social media and email and flip them upside down and more impactful, as well as start to strategize, you know, unfortunately 6 months out, what our impact would be when it comes to reigniting our network. So that was really what we did, from day one to the first 6 months outside of cleaning out the organization and getting the house in order.
Yeah. No, I can appreciate coming in and people don't remember what the programs were before, but to be able to have kind of that almost a blank slate. I mean, you could do essentially what you wanted to, but to be able to be strategic about the emails going out. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that? You said going from those ineffective emails, which I think everybody listening knows exactly what you're talking about. And what's the strategy behind your three purposeful emails each month?
Yeah, and let me first go on the record because I always want to say things first. I don't have the magic formula. So I don't want anyone to be like, oh, or think that I think that I have it all figured out. But I think from my previous role doing communications at another chamber to just emails I've gotten from other organizations, we get too fixated of we got to throw all this stuff into one email. And then we tend to sometimes get so bogged down about events that all we're sending are event correspondence. Don't look at my social media right now because that's all I'm doing. But I looked at let's get the events out of all of our emails and let's look at respecting people's inboxes. And here's how we've done it. And again, this is just one man, one chamber's way to do it. But either the final days of a month or the first days of a month, depending on when that falls in the week, I send an events bulletin out that just has picture, header, brief description, and a click here button. And we list out 5 events for the month with a corresponding social media post. We went from emails that were getting in the teens to the low 20s of open rates to mid 40s to low 60s open rates. Click rates I won't talk about because I want to stay with the numbers that make me sound like I'm
That's
doing.
right. That's right.
But open rate wise, and then what we're seeing on registrations in terms of revenue, we're certainly seeing a huge amount of investment of revenue coming in per email specifically for our events bulletin. But then the second week of each month, that's what I refer to as our member highlights. I call it our business connections email, where we're putting out things in our member notes section, accolades about businesses, businesses who are hosting maybe an upcoming lunch and learn, or businesses we're partnering with, as well as announcing our new businesses. And then somewhere in there, a link to our events calendar. Because again, I don't want to bog down everything with give us more money, come to more events. And then the third week, I try and put more advocacy efforts in there. upcoming major events, but talking about what the takeaways would be at those events, not so much about the event. And then any other major things that we're doing impacting, our city or regionally. And that's been a really good winning formula for us. And hopefully anyone that, wants to possibly use that, maybe it works for them.
Yeah, and I like how you said you still have your events in there, but you're not drawing all the attention, right, to the events, but it's in there. It's like, oh yeah, I saw an email a week or two ago. It talked about an event. Oh, here it is right here. And you can click on it, but you're not focused on give us money, right?
And that's kind of the lens. And you've been in the industry for a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes we get a little too focused on events or revenue, without respecting what we're putting into people's inboxes. And I think, I'm a relationship builder. I'm a relational leader, and I think chamber leaders need to start thinking more relational than transactional. And that's how I also try and view the emails.
Yeah. And I think most chamber staff are probably guilty, at least at times, where the next event's coming up and that's all you can focus on is the next event and just getting bogged down with that and
Yep.
nothing else. And forgetting that that one event is not the reason why 90+% of your members joined, right? Like it's important for you in that time because that's what you're focused on, but they all are members for so many other reasons that as you reach out and communicate with them, you got to be touching on those points as well.
Well, and just in a what has the chamber done for me aspect, if we're not putting that in the emails or in the newsletters to the membership, I count that as retention. So, we're sharing out information, but also saying, here's what we've done since this last advocacy update, or here's what we're doing shortly. There's a lot of different things strategically if we put it in the newsletter that can go into recruiting new businesses, retaining businesses beyond just getting butts and seats for another event.
Right. Exactly. So the emails, that's a great example of making that shift to creating a chamber of impact. What are some other areas that you were able to attack as you came into the chamber there?
One of the things that we needed to do is our community being as small as it is, like the city, not the school district. Again, 4.5, 5 square miles. Um, we're so disconnected in a small community that we have a pro and not so pro business nonprofit that has started through the last decade in our community, not called the Chamber.
Okay.
Which one I thought was an issue because we're not relevant and we weren't having an impact that those groups had to start. We should have been convening both sides, but at the same time, if there's those two groups, no one's hitting that 80% in the middle, the sane center. So one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we did was get heard. And two of the things I did quickly was try and identify and make those relationships with key stakeholders. And I'm sure that's not anything new that any chamber person that's been in the industry for a while has heard. But I probably met with key stakeholders more than I did businesses just to make sure that we built those bridges and also we're being heard of what's to come from this new chamber and our pursuit of relevance and the impact we wanted. So no one was caught off guard or challenged. And
Yeah.
that was the biggest piece because a lot of what I was saying at that time was deemed political. And well, the chamber's never done that before. That's not going to go well. And I go, well, I assure you, I have surveys and countless of data points that our businesses want this, and chambers are doing this across the industry. This is only new here. And so I kept those voices, those stakeholders close in that to ensure that they knew what was coming from our chamber. And now they've been on board, even if they are challenging. And I think that really massaging those relationships and building those collaborations, especially with those that aren't on board with what the chamber's doing, is key. And the other aspect is at the same time, we started a podcast called Amplify Worthington that allowed me to use that as a platform to say it even louder to businesses, but also to the community. And then we did it in a collaboration with our economic development director. So it's a little bit, possibly a little bit different of approach for a chamber podcast compared to some who highlight just primarily what the chamber is doing and what businesses are doing. And those two were probably the best investment of time outside of kind of retooling our chamber.
I'm a huge fan of Chambers having a podcast. I even have a little course if anybody wants to explore having a podcast for your chamber. It'll be in our show notes. But um, going back to your meetings with the key stakeholders, um, you didn't necessarily say these words, but this is how I heard it. So correct me
Yeah.
if I'm wrong or if there's a different take. Um, you weren't going and asking for permission necessarily to say, these are the changes I want, but it was more just so they're not surprised when they see the changes coming, that they can be on the right side of things and not be like, whoa, who's Matt think he is coming in here changing everything? But just saying, hey, here's some things that can be impactful for our community. Wanted to bring you in the loop and let you know some things that are coming down the pipeline. Is that kind of accurate, or did I get that off?
Yeah, you probably even said it better than what I said. That's exactly it. I think as chamber leaders, we also serve as community architects, and the best way to do things smoother is to ensure everyone knows what's to come, but also to say change in our community at some point, some level is coming. Let's control that change and do what's best for our community. And the only way we can do that is if you join the conversation. And so, yeah, 100%. I think that is one of the things we should do, and not ask for that permission, like you said, but just include the voices so that they feel heard through this transition.
Right. I think the worst case is you can come in with a big change and surprise them, and then you're going to get met with resistance all the way along. Where if they have a heads up of it and they feel like they're in the know, it's going to go a lot smoother to push along something new.
Yep.
So you mentioned as you came in to the chamber, it was kind of on a decline through COVID and everything. You guys have implemented some of these changes. How are you seeing the needle move at this point now that you're 3 years into it?
Yeah, I feel like we have an aircraft carrier moving full steam ahead in the ocean while also going forward on the course. It is altering the course at the same time. So I'm like, I've just started my fourth year and it's like I'm still having to clean this up. But I think what we've seen greatly is we've had a steady flow of new members and then having to really work extra hard on getting better contacts of those that we want to retain, just because there's so much turnover. So we're still seeing those battles, which I'm sure there's a lot of people nodding right now, listening, like, "Oh, in there, brother."
Yeah.
But one of the things that we're seeing is we're getting a lot more initiatives up and running, and a lot more businesses who have not been engaged are starting to get more engaged and start poking their head out at events or in my inbox. And that's the most flattering, and especially seeing people, with all due respect to those leaders before me that said, I haven't been a part of the chamber in X amount of years and I'd like to come back. And that's been a lot of what we're hearing now.
That's very rewarding to know that the work you're doing is being noticed and really making an impact, to be able to not just retain, but bring back some of those members that have dropped at some point along the way. So that's awesome. I can imagine that those members that hung through COVID and everything too are like, wow, the chamber's like revitalized. Like they're really, making an impact right now. So I would imagine that first year retention for those, aside from just financial strain through the pandemic, if they could see that impact, that they would hang on.
We're getting there. We didn't have good enough numbers to know what that retainment level was at the beginning, but yeah, we are starting to hear that. One of the things too, maybe hopefully not getting too far off your point. One of the things we did with those that dropped and didn't want to reinvest in our chamber, I still wanted to show value on investment in the chamber and respect and support our chamber members first. But I worked a little extra hard, and maybe this is political, and there'll be a lot of hate emails or anything that comes through to you or me. I still busted my hump almost as much for non-member businesses to show them the value of a vibrant and strong chamber. And I got a lot of return on that. And I don't mean that ignorantly. I think sometimes as leaders, we're too caught up of, oh, you're a non-member or you're not involved with the chamber anymore, and we forget them. I've tried to work really hard to say, you know what, if maybe it's a no for them about being a part of the chamber, let's talk about how. Because at the end of the day, if they come to one event and they find value in the chamber, they found value in me as their chamber president, value in our mission. And at the end of the day, we're chamber leaders, but we also have to think like civic entrepreneurs. We also got that revenue. And so we saw a lot in these first 3 years, and I'm still seeing now a lot of the networks, like our Women's Business Network, half of the women coming to these luncheons are non members. But I can almost have enough data points to show this has been one of the best networks to bring in new members and new investors in our chamber by dropping the real significance of how we treat a member versus a non-member. Again, wanting to show the value on investment for members, but that's really been something through this transition too, whether they were dropped or they just didn't see the chamber as relevant back, a month ago or a couple years ago. That I think's been one of the biggest things that have led to a success for us. Not saying no to supporting them or being involved in the chamber, but asking ourselves as a two-person team, how do we get them a part of the chamber or involved with the chamber? And that's been a huge game changer for us. And we've actually gotten positive feedback. Hey, thanks for not being pushy and really wanting to help me first. And now it helped me see what the chamber really means.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. And I think we forget, as chambers, we think, membership, everybody's got to be a member. And we forget that each business has its own different walk of life, so to speak, where some businesses, it may be against their corporate policy to join a local chamber because they had a bad experience in another community, another state, whatever. So as a policy, they can't join a chamber. But if you have an event that resonates with their mission, then they'll sign up and they'll be a sponsor. They'll be there for it. So being able to be there for all the businesses in the community and to show value to the community at large rather than just being hyper focused on membership, I think is a very smart approach.
Yeah, and I know, I can hear the comments and the emails coming in that disagree with that approach. And if not those emails coming to me, they're coming to you.
Right.
But I think in a day and age too, let's see the reality. All membership organizations are seeing declines, right? From veterans groups to other membership organizations, are seeing declines in membership. We as chambers, if we want to have a great impact, we need to also switch our mindset. But at the same time, I can think right off the top of my head 5 different businesses who've come to our events, paid a non-member price. But if I tallied up how many times I've seen them at paid events this year, they've done more than their share of an investment in an annual membership and a one-time or two-time lunch that most of those who are members coming to 1 or 2 events have invested. So, getting away from mission and thinking about, being a civic entrepreneur in a sense, having that hat on, I still got that money.
Yep.
And they got to see the value in the chamber. So I think we got to shift that mindset too.
Yeah.
Sorry if I got too far off.
Nope, it's all about being community architects, as you said before. So
yeah,
I love it. Love the thought process there. Matt, I wanted to ask for chambers listening that are wanting to take their chamber up to the next level. I'd argue that you've done that there at the Worthington area chamber. What kind of tip or action item, what piece of advice might you share with that chamber who's looking to take their organization up to the next level?
I think it's kind of I have one answer, kind of a 2-part response to that. I think in order to really continue to grow your chamber, and we're still doing this ourselves, so I don't want to sound like I have it all figured out, but we have to take chances in doing something that we've never done. And if you're a chamber that is doing things differently than how they've been done, what's that next thing for us to be doing? And to that end, for me right now, is we've kind of gotten things back our way, I think, for us being here in Central Ohio, which is a growing community, is I'm also having a mindset now that's a little new for me. I want to think regionally to better impact locally. So I really challenge kind of a two-part answer there. Think about what's that next thing that your chamber needs to do, and just like I said earlier, channel your inner Miley Cyrus and do it as be a wrecking ball. And then secondly, let's start thinking a little bit more regionally and bring that home locally for that change to really spark that positive change.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like asking everyone I have on the show about the future of chambers and how do you see the future of chambers and their purpose going forward?
That is the $1 million question. If I had it figured out, I would be probably living on an island right now and not in a two-person office. But I think for chambers, we have to adapt to what's to come. That's why I'm excited about the Horizon Initiative being updated. I think chambers need to stop thinking so small in some ways, or at least for the smaller chambers, and start thinking a little bit more broadly in what our impact is. Where are we serving and where are we not serving? What chances and opportunities do we need to take? But on top of that, I think the future of chambers lie in being that that connector for all voices to cut through the noise and be that trusted source that we need to be, and hopefully we're all serving right now, so that we can hit that sane center, that 80% that's not in the know or that is voiceless or just isn't aware right now. And that's where I think the future lies, right there in that sane center, and we have to address that, and we need to address it yesterday.
Absolutely. And if you knew all the answers, you could write the Horizon 2.0 all by yourself. But this is the
We'll do it
collaborative
together.
effort, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we don't have it all figured out. I just want to say that one more time. But some of the risks we've taken and some of the initiatives we've done have definitely helped us do more than what I thought we could do possible in 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Matt, before I let you go, I wanted to give you an opportunity to share any contact information for listeners who may want to reach out and connect with you and learn more about how you guys are doing things there at the Worthington Area Chamber. What would be the best way for someone to reach out and connect?
Thank you for that opportunity. I'd love to connect, especially on LinkedIn. I'm huge on LinkedIn. You can just find me at Matt Lofy, Lofy, on LinkedIn, or you can email me at M as in Matt Lofy at worthingtonchamber.org. And you can just find more about us at worthingtonchamber.org. I'd love to connect in any way.
That's perfect. And we'll get all that in our show notes for this episode as well to make it easy to find you and connect with you. But Matt, this has been fun to have you on Chamber Chat Podcast to share your story and the impact that your chamber's making now in the community. And kudos to you and your two-person team for being able to to do this. I know there's others involved. There's volunteers and there's board and all that, but you guys are doing things right to be able to right the ship and turn it in the right direction. So thanks for sharing that with us today.
Thank you, and thank you for this opportunity. I certainly appreciate it. It's been an honor.
If you are a chamber professional, please subscribe to Chamber Chat Podcast in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. When you subscribe to Chamber Chat Podcast, new episodes will show up in your podcast app each week as they are released. If you're finding value in this podcast, please leave us a rating and a review in iTunes. But most importantly, please share Chamber Chat Podcast with your colleagues that are in the industry.